hey, come on in.
From the award-winning producers of CB Cowgirls, come to the table.
We are so glad you're able to join us today here at the table. Today's a very special episode that we want to share with all of you. We've been talking about the Code of the West, the principles that make up all of us in the Western world at our core. And really, those are just biblical principles that God's instilled for us and left for us in His Word. And today, we pair that with some yummy food and great conversation, because that's what we're all about: faith, food, and fellowship. The cowgirl and cowboy way. And Vicki, what have you cooked up today?
Well, this is just good fixins, right?
Oh, it looks like such good comfort
yeah,
food.
I mean, we're talking mashed potatoes and hamburger gravy. And I mean, that's just really a comfort food, and they're, every ranch kitchen can serve this up. And this recipe is actually one that Kimber Beers put in the cookbook here for Bring 'em On Home, which was wrote by Bonnie Brown and Kimber. And this recipe is actually of Vicki Duncan's, but it's submitted by the Beers family. So anyway, that's what we're having today, Becky. And,
I cannot wait to dive into this, because really, I don't think there is a ranch family that you will find anywhere that doesn't have a cast iron skillet full of biscuits and gravy, or mashed potatoes and gravy.
I can look at this cast iron skillet here and think of your great grandmother's wood stove in the kitchen there, at the main ranch. And when the noon meal was done being served, I would wait inside the kitchen with a spoon. And I could just take the gravy right out of the skillet.
Now I know where I'm getting all this, eating the spoon, the marshmallow cream out of the dish with the spoon. Okay, you're the one, the chocolate cake,
What can I say?
Yeah, you're just like, you
either
can digest
I'm
it all.
responsible or I'm guilty.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, and speaking of ranching and Northwest families and rodeo families, today is a very special episode. And that is because if any of you in the Western world have been in the Western world for any length of time, you know this family and you know this man. And we are, as the CB Cowgirls, have been blessed by some amazing sponsors, amazing companies that have been with us for 5 years, day one, supporting everything that we do. And this company and this family is no exception. And today we want to pay tribute to them and honor them in this lesson, in this episode, which is the American Hats and Keith Maddox and his family.
Absolutely, and on a very sad note, we lost a wonderful man and a dear, dear friend to so many people throughout the world, not just in the Western way of life, but Keith recently passed away, and he was just, he just walked out his faith through his business and through his everyday life, and he just such a great mentor to so many, and just had this beautiful heart, and his beautiful wife Susan has that same heart, and we're going to welcome another good dear friend of his today.
Yeah. So when we talk about American Hats and when we talk about the Code of the West, one of those principles that we live by is taking pride in your work, whether that's out in sub-zero weather, taking care of your cattle, or whether that's in the shop building the best hats you could possibly find anywhere, or building buckles like Tres Rios and making sure you have quality spot on silver made by great silversmiths. We take pride in our work, not only as believers and followers of Jesus, but in the Western way of life and the cowboy code. So the scripture that always comes to mind when we talk about taking pride in our work, and really, sometimes you can just get to work and you just really don't want to be there, or
you're tired,
you've been up late, you've been traveling, and you really have to find that to keep going and to just, it's another day, and that's by doing your work as unto the Lord. And in Ephesians chapter 6, if you read verse 7, it says, "Serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not men, because you know that the Lord will reward everyone for whatever good he does, whether he's slave or free." So it's really a key principle in our way of life, because really God sees all. No matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, He sees all, and He doesn't forget the good works that we do. He doesn't forget when we are giving Him glory and we are honoring and lifting His name up by living an example of His Son through us. And
Absolutely.
I think Keith is really an epitome of that scripture.
Becky, absolutely. Keith Maddox, none better. Just deep rooted in rodeo and Northwest history. And they had his celebration of life at the Stockyards there in Fort Worth. And it was an honor to be there. And, you know, Becky, the Stockyards were full up.
Oh, I wish I could have made it. I'm so glad that you were able to be there and represent our family and pay tribute to Keith. And we are so blessed still to have Keith Mundee, his right-hand man. I think you really are going to enjoy what he has to say, because he has some great stories of Keith Maddox. And he, of anyone I know, was there in those times building that business. And he'll really have some great things to share, how Keith led his life as if he was working unto the Lord in everything he did with American Hats.
I remember when I first came there and I asked him, what's the number one goal? What do we want to accomplish? He says, number one, we want to, we've got to make a profit in order to stay in business. But he said, the number one charge for you is to make sure that we're always delivering quality. If for some reason something happens with one of our hats that's not 100% quality, he said, do not hesitate, do not quibble, take that hat back and get him a brand new hat. So take care of that customer. For him, it was about the Western way of life, and he would always say, when we were faced with an issue, he would say, what's the right thing here? What is the right thing? Forget about the consequences, forget about what if this happens, what if that happens. Just boil it down to what's the right thing to do, and do that, irregardless of what it might cost financially or what it might cost us personally. Do the right thing, and you'll always come out on top.
What are you going to miss about him the most?
Probably getting to talk to him every day. I still have his phone, number in my deal, and so on my truck, every time I get in my truck, his name pops up on the screen. My wife's number one, and then he's number two there. And even on the day that he had gotten the news that him and Susan were told by the doctors that there were no more options, that they were going to have to just put him in hospice, and that he would never live another day without morphine, and that this was the end. It was a Tuesday, and he answered the phone like he always did. Mr. Mundee, how are you today? I said, I'm good. How about you? And he said, oh, I'm great. I give him some numbers from the factory, and one was a daily shipment number that we had set a new record for American Hat Company, and he was confused. He said, well, that's for the month. That's not for the day, right? And I said, no, that's just the day. And he's like, wow, are we so blessed or what? Man, we're blessed. And here he is. He'd just gotten devastating news, but that's how he chose to, deal with that. And through that whole process, he just remained positive. He was probably trying to comfort us more than us comfort him.
It's really hard not to tear up when you listen to Keith Mundee talk about Keith, because they really are family, and that business, they were so close in everything that they did. And I so appreciate Keith. Thank you for sharing your heart about Mr. Maddox.
Yes, Keith, thank you so much, Keith Mundee, for taking the time to visit with us. We were, when we filmed Keith and the stories that he shared about Keith Maddox and American Hat, we were in Twin Falls, Idaho, for the Idaho Rodeo Hall of Fame. And Keith was inducted this year.
Yes.
Great support from all of his family and friends at American Hat. There were so many here during the festivities, so it was just an honor, and we thank you so much.
And again, we have another home run on a comfort food. You can never go wrong with mashed potatoes and yummy gravy, and it's really good with hamburger. Typically
you think of sausage gravy.
You think of sausage,
right,
and this
right.
puts a little spin on it. And we actually picked up some. I don't even know what kind of hamburger it was that you used, but it was really good. So
well, you can use a mixture of if you have your own venison and beef mixed together, make a great gravy. Sausage gravy. This was just strictly hamburger gravy. But
Beers family, you did it. That's a good one. Remember, if you need this book, all you have to do is email us at the email on the screen, and we will make sure that we connect you to get a copy of this amazing recipe book. And again, just another great day of food, faith, and fellowship served the cowboy way with the CB Cowgirls, so be sure to tune in next time.